Welcome to the Recovering Preacher's Kids, a space for healing, honesty, and leaving a legacy of faith without perfection. We're your hosts, Lisa and Lori, and we're so glad you're here.
Are you a good waiter? Not like a waiter, like a server, but are you a good waiterer? Like if you're in a waiting season, are you good at waiting?
No. I mean, I don't even
Me
wait well
neither.
at the red light when you're driving and you're trying to get somewhere. I don't wait very well. No, I don't
I don't
wait well
either.
sitting in the doctor's office if he's running an hour behind. I do not wait well.
Wait well if they're 15 minutes behind, much less an hour behind.
By an hour, I'm like livid, but
A good waiter at all. And I mean, I think our podcast is proof that we're not good prayers either, because when we pray for something, we want like a popcorn, like, okay, God, we prayed for that. Where is it?
fix it.
But but I have specifically been praying for something. I don't want to say every day for a couple of years, because I think I would be lying if I said that I pray for it every day, because I go through seasons where I don't see that prayer being answered and I get mad about it and I quit praying about it. And then I get
Yeah.
convicted because I'm like, okay, Lori, just because God hasn't answered it yet doesn't mean he's not going to answer it yet. So then I start praying about it again, and then I don't see any change. I don't see anything happening. So then I get mad about it again. So then I quit praying about it. And it got me thinking, what do you do in the waiting? What is the thing to do? What is, and I'm not looking for a Sunday school answer because I think it might be different for everybody, but I just have really been thinking a lot lately is, if I'm waiting on something, do I spend any time anticipating that God's going to answer that? And sadly, I do not. I don't prepare myself for the prayer to be answered. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I pray for it and I expect him to bing bong boom magically make it happen. But I don't spend any time preparing myself in the waiting for it to be answered, because I got to thinking recently, what if I'm not ready? I couldn't handle that prayer to be answered right now. Maybe I'm not healed enough or mature enough, or let's be honest, I still act up. So I might not be wise enough to handle it. Like that equivalent to, you wouldn't give a 5-year-old keys to drive a car. They're not old
True.
enough, mature enough to handle driving a car. And sometimes I wonder if the things I'm praying for, I'm not ready to handle the responsibility of that. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, it does. I remember a time when one of the pastors at the church that we had was talking about prayer and stuff, and lots of times that what we start out praying for, it's really not what we should be praying for, and we want God to answer the prayer the way we want it to be done. But if we, I don't want to say stay the course, but the way he put it was really, lots of times there's a work that has to be done in us to see how he's gonna answer it, and that's a lot of it, because we wanna answer the way we want it answered, and it's not gonna be answered that way. So I kinda see what you're saying, but I guess too, that's the difference between I do it being, I don't wanna say selfish, but selfish in having it answered the way I want it, because see, when I see a problem and I have a solution and I want it taken care of, I kinda tell you how I want it taken care of. This is how it's to be done. Okay? Here's the pathway, let's make it work. Make it work out. I'm not one that waits to sit back and I know that might sound weird, because sometimes there's like maybe something around the house that has to be fixed. I bring the problem up and I have an idea of how I want it fixed and how it's supposed to look, and but then I might have to wait for it to be done. But usually then John has time to think about it and it's done it's done because it's a different way, is a solution that ends up being sometimes the better solution. You know what I'm saying? But, I had already had it planned out. I don't know if any of that makes sense, but I feel
Mhm.
like sometimes that's the way prayer is that and because I know I do, I go into it as like, okay, here's the problem. I have the solution all planned out. This is how it needs to happen. And in the time frame that it needs to be taken care of. So therefore, I think a lot of the time to go back and answer your question, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that, yes, we're not in the spot for him to answer it, and we have to catch up with his timing because he's like, I'm not going to do it right now because that's not the way this is going to play out. This is not the way I
Do
want
you
it done.
think do you think too, maybe we stop praying for something because when we started praying, we went ahead and told him the problem and the solution? And so
Right?
therefore, why do we need to quit? Why do we even need to keep praying about this? Because I gave you the solution. And come on, God, like I gave you the answer. So let's get after it.
Well, okay, you're kind of stepping on my toes today because I guess if we're really honest, though, we probably stop too because we don't want to do the change. We don't want the
Ooh.
change to be done in us. It's easier to point out what needs to be done. For me, it's easier for me to point out what needs to be done on the outside of what I can see or with other people or situations, but not with, don't ask me to do any work and change. Just you fix it for me, not me do the work to.
See, that is really, and I stay stuck between these two places too of I feel like I'm always working on myself, so I'm tired of working on myself, so I need someone else to work on themselves to make my prayer come
Yes.
true.
Yes. Well, okay. Yes. Yes. That's a better way to put what I just said. Somebody else fix themselves for a change instead of me doing
Yeah.
it.
Because do you ever feel like, Lord, I'm constantly always changing? Like I'm constantly the one being molded and refined. And when am I going to be perfect? I can't even believe I'm saying that because the Lord is laughing, being like, when you get to glory, child, that's when you will be perfect. But it's like the closer I get to the Lord, the more filthy I see myself. And not in a put myself down kind of way. I don't mean it that way. But I mean, even on our very best day when we're getting everything right, we're still nothing more than a filthy rag before God. And that's why Jesus stepped in. That's Jesus is what makes us not be like that anymore. And I find myself seeing all my flaws. And I'm like, man, I feel like I've come so far. And I have come so far, but dad-nabbit, do I not have so much further to go.
But maybe that's the way just to see it like that instead of being so down on yourself on it. That is the way you stay humble before
True.
God, because if you feel like you've made all this progress and that's all you see, then we get a little cocky, you know.
True.
Not to keep you like in a under his thumb or or under oppression, but just a way to say, well, no, I still have lots of work to do. And he just like, well, we got this area, but just to kind of keep us grounded a little bit, maybe.
Well, what do you think it looks like the the preparation phase? Like you've healed or you've come so far and you see you have so much further to go, but you're just, you haven't reached that. What do you think for you, if you feel like sharing? Like what does preparation look like for you? Like if you're in a place of I'm not going back, but I'm not really moving forward either. I'm like in this place right here, right now. What does the preparation in that place look like for you? Because if I'm sometimes for me it looks like whining.
Well,
I'm
I was just
whining
sitting here
about it.
thinking, well, yeah, I do that. But I'm horrible of just like, okay, I'm plopping down. I'm going to sit right here till it's done. I'm not
So
doing
do
anything.
nothing.
Yeah.
You just
I mean,
boycott
I
the
am,
preparation.
yeah, that's a good idea. Boy, I'm boycotting it. I don't know. I am so much of if I don't have to see it or deal with it, then it doesn't exist type person for some reason.
Mm.
So if I don't actively pursue, then it's not something for me to ponder on. Does that make sense? Does that
Yeah.
even make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. It's almost like if I just act like it's not even existing, then I don't have to deal with it at
Then I
all.
don't have to deal with it. And by not dealing with it, then I don't have to do any work. I don't have to do any preparation. I don't have to. I've already told you about it, so I'm done with it. So it's not your problem.
So if you're boycotting the healing, do you find yourself becoming worried during the waiting? Do you find yourself anxious that you're in the place and you're not moving forward? Do you get See, that's what I do, is I'm like you, is I just get mad about it and I just boycott it and say, "Well, I'm not gonna go back. I'm not going back there. But if I'm not moving forward, then just forget it. I'm just gonna hang out here." But then I start getting panicked and anxious because I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, I can see that because yeah, that's probably yeah, I probably do that. That might be why I have some of this anxiety feeling is I'm not thinking about it, but I am thinking about it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But while you were talking, it made me think of we are so much like the children of Israel wandering around in the desert.
Look, I'm gonna be honest with you, every day I love Moses. Like, I think I come from the lineage of Moses somehow because I get him, because 'cause I'd have hit the rock too. I would have needed to hit something so bad that given the opportunity, I'd have hit the rock, and I'd have probably hit it a bunch of times. The fact he only hit it once amazes me, you know? So I get Moses. No, we never change. We're still the same kind of people.
And so yeah, I would just have plopped down and just said, okay, just whenever y'all get ready, y'all quit complaining. We're just gonna sit right here till it all works out and
Or
water just
or
gushes out.
Oh, what about Miriam? Think about Miriam, she, like, led a plot against Moses, you know what I'm saying? Her and Aaron
Yeah.
and their what you know, they am I thinking yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Aaron and
I done
Miriam
forgot
got
why how that
mad,
yeah,
and because Moses was bringing in leaders. He's like,
that's
"Okay, we
right.
need to get some
Yeah.
organization." So he brings in the leaders, and it makes Miriam and Aaron mad, and then they lead this plot against Moses and, whatever. I get her too. I get
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
Because she had been in a season of waiting for her turn, and then, she felt like in that moment that here you're bringing in all these elders in, you're bringing in all these leaders, and I've waited my turn. And so she just
Oh,
took
that's
matters into her
hilarious.
own hands, and the way she dealt with it was she just, she started manipulating and controlling and plotting and planning and creating this dramatic issue among the people, and, she got, like, leprosy for it. Wasn't it? Did she get leprosy? Like,
Yeah.
because she had
Yeah.
to leave
The camp.
for
Mhm.
the camp and all that, and so, she had a public downfall. But I'm like that. I do that. I, like, get just I might not start a campaign against somebody, but I might just in my own little way act out and throw a fit and do all kind of things because dad nabbit, it's my turn.
Mm. Mm.
I've waited long enough, Lord.
But I think we're all I mean, if we're honest about it, we're all that way. Maybe that's why Jesus had so many sermons with and conversations with his disciples about being a humble servant, that the last are gonna be first, because our tendency is to quite honestly, is to be about all ourselves. We want our turn. I don't know. Yeah, I'm a lot like that because I'll stand on the sideline so I don't draw attention so everybody else has their turn, but dadgummit, somebody see that I'm over here. Give me an opportunity. Speak up and say, "Come on, Lisa, you join us. You do it." You know? Now how crazy is that?
No, because I'm the same way. Like, I'm going to step aside and let you have your moment, but I do expect you to recognize that I have stepped aside.
I
Wow. The
don't
flesh
know.
is hard.
Yeah.
Whoever believes that being a follower of Christ is easy is j that's just the most foolish thing. Because 'cause I'm gonna tell you, growing closer to Christ is the hardest thing I have ever done in my whole entire life, because it's just ever evolving. You know what I'm saying? It's like you feel like you leveled up to only realize you technically did not level up, you just jumped over that one thing.
One thing.
You know, you just made it over that one thing, because waiting is something that has been going on in, like, well, my whole entire life, much less like my life as a believer. Like, that's an issue for me all across the board and always.
I don't know, maybe waiting is just hard for us in our culture is because we don't wait.
Mm.
I mean, just in everyday things, we don't wait. You have a problem, you Google it or you ask Copilot or AI or Chat GPT and it spits out the answer for you. There is no waiting. It just, I mean, you go to the microwave and pop in food and your food is ready. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we have no, so I don't think we have a concept of what it means to wait. Even when we were raising our children, we was like, wait a minute, you just got to wait. They don't wait well. But, I'm sitting here with the picture in my head that, I'm sitting here stumping my foot for whatever God to answer. And he's like, you just gonna have to wait a minute. You have got to give me some time. You know, I could see him so doing that. It's like if I'm praying for somebody, it might be, I gotta give them time. You've got to be patient, They're
Well,
not there yet.
right, and isn't that the thing? I'm there for them, but maybe they're not
They're
there
not.
yet, and that frustrates and when you said that, like, I have someone I'm praying for, and I'm like, "God, why are you not moving?" I never thought about they were not there. Ooh.
So, sit and unpack that for a little bit. Or what did
My
dad used to say? Why don't you put that in your pipe and smoke it?
the lady who taught in our life group recently shared a story about she was praying for someone and nothing was happening and she was like, just going to give up. Like, okay, she took the silence as no. And she saw a spider web and a spider was like dangling from the spider web. And she said it was like when she looked at that, she thought to herself, the only thing attaching that spider to that web is that one string. What if I'm the one string connecting this person to the Lord? I'm the only person praying for them. And if I stop praying for them, nobody's going to pray for them. And I started thinking about that and the person I've been praying for. And then I started thinking about how pitiful my faith is in the waiting, because I have not been preparing myself or even trying to, I don't want to say try to prepare that person, but I think to myself, how much am I investing in them for God to answer the prayer that I'm praying over them? Because sometimes I tend to pray for them from afar, but I'm not putting in any effort in the day to day. Like I have a relationship with
Mhm.
this person, but I don't 100% think I'm feeding Christ, showing Christ to them. Am I making sense what I'm saying?
Mhm. 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 Mhm.
And so, what if part of the waiting for them has to come from us feeding into them? Not controlling. That's not what I mean. Not
Right,
manipulating and
right.
controlling. But I'm talking about just feeding Christ into them. And this particular person, I have to be very careful because they say, stop preaching to me. So then I just stop saying anything
Maybe
instead of,
that's why
okay,
sometimes we're not, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
mm-mm.
why we feel stuck because maybe, because this is that I can relate to that because I can feel that because I don't want to feel preachy, but how do you invest and pour into and make disciples as you go? Because we were talking about that last night at church, that the Great Commission was to make disciples as you live life. How do you do that without sounding preachy? I don't have the answer there. So maybe that's why we just for me, I just sit down and be quiet and wait for him to lay everything out and you do the work instead of, you know, I don't know, maybe the part of it in the waiting is as we're praying, maybe part of the prayer needs to be, okay, now tell me how to do or interact with so and so
Mm.
today. What can I say that doesn't sound preachy? Because our preacher last night made a statement about that, it's not our job to bring somebody to Christ. The Holy Spirit is the one that draws, you know, pricks the heart and draws them to Christ. But all we can do is just share. It's not our responsibility, which I think maybe that's something that I've taken on through all the years that, well, if you're going to share, first of all, I have to have all the answers. I have to know everything. I have to have the right speech prepared for whatever. So then I was putting all the responsibility, I still do that on myself. But, when he said that last night, it was just kind of like, okay, it's not my responsibility. It's just, I'm just supposed to be doing life. So maybe that's part of while in the waiting is actually work on both of
Mm.
us and them. I don't know.
Isn't it interesting that we put so much on ourselves? So much we focus so much, and maybe that's part of the enemy's way is if I spend more time focused on what I'm not getting and how God's not answering my prayer and how I'm not ready, then I never spend time praying, asking God to help me prepare for the thing I'm praying for. Help me feed into the person. Like, as you were talking, I
Mhm.
just kept thinking about that's a lot of us focusing on us.
Mhm.
Because when
Mm.
Jesus sent the disciples out, he even told them not to take any food, not to take any money, to trust that they would be taken care of. So when we intercede and we're praying for someone, isn't that what we're doing? We're going out. It's the same thing. We're going out. And God's saying, I want you to go out without anything. But they still had to move. They didn't just go to the city and then sit at the gate and say, okay, I'm going to wait for people to come talk to me. And I'm going to wait for somebody. Like, they had to be active. And the whole time they had to be discerning as to what next step to take.
That's a pretty interesting concept. So it comes back to maybe I've approached prayer wholly wrong with the expectation of God to fix it. Like you said, they weren't sitting at the gate. I've just been sitting at the gate waiting for it to be for for it to come to me instead of going to. Is that kinda what
Because
you're saying?
yeah, because like instead of my prayer, like, yes, I have my prayer list, like the things and the people I'm praying for, but at the same time, I never once say, okay, God, like, these are the thing that's on my heart. Help me be your hands and feet through this. Show me today how to walk to not only draw closer to you, but to pour into these people or these situations. I'm like you, I'm always praying and then just standing there. And as
Mhm.
we've been talking, I've just had that realization that that's what I do. I don't have the expectation of me being a part of the answered prayer. Am I making sense? I have
Yes.
just realized that I am asking for something, never planning or preparing that I am the answer. I don't mean that I'm like a king. I didn't mean it that way, but like that God will
That
use me in this
right.
situation or with this person to answer the very prayer I'm praying. It's like I expect him to use someone else and use other circumstances and use whatever because I've done my part. I've prayed.
Good point. So maybe this has definitely been a lesson for both of us. It's because when you ask me about what do I do for prepare, I'm thinking all these what am I doing to prepare? My mind goes to a checklist. Are you doing Bible study? You're doing this. Are you doing all the right things? But being prepared as far as, well, what can I do today for me to pour into or to help work the situation? Not help, but what can I do to work through this situation? Because I mean, what we're praying for might not be as for always a person. It could be a situation. I don't know how to bring it about, but just the idea that instead of just saying, okay, here's the problem, saying now, how can I participate? That's the word I'm looking for. How can I participate in this? Because I don't know. I just don't think that's what we are. I don't want to say accustomed, but that's not a part of our culture. I don't think. And it should be, I think. I mean, because the more I study the scriptures and all, I'm realizing how communal they were and connected they were with each other, how important it was. And that's something we miss. And I think in our society, in our culture, we're not a communal, we're like individual. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I think that might be part of the key of, so therefore it's like, okay, if we're separate units, well then I'm just going to stand over here and I just pray for you, and then okay, you take care of it over here. And that's what we need to be, more of communal. And I don't know how to do that because I'm not very good at that.
All right, y'all, that's a wrap for today's episode. If something in this conversation encouraged you, challenged you, or just made you feel seen, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you never miss what's coming next. And if you know someone who would love this episode, share it with them. Send it to a friend, drop it in a group chat, or post it on your story. That kind of support means the world to us. You always find every episode, updates, and more over at therecoveringpreacherskids.com. Thanks for hanging out with us today. We'll see you next time.